of the group Contra Dai, Professor Arao, to discuss with us the role of social media in the elections. Professor Arao is also the Associate Professor at the Department of Journalism of the UP College of Mass Communication. Good afternoon, sir. Thank you very much for joining us.
Yes, Professor.
Good afternoon.
Nice
I'm very
to
happy
see
to
you.
be here.
And we've
Nice
been
to
talking
see
about it off camera ever since you sat down here.
Yes.
Sat down there. How effective has it been? How rowdy has social media been? But it just goes to show how a lot of people have been more active because of social media. How active they have been for these elections in talking about their views, and how
Yes, that's true.
vocal they have been.
Yeah, that's true. The internet penetration rate right now is around 43.5%. So it's a very, very substantial climb from the statistics last year, because in 2006, I think the penetration rate was only about 5%. So I think it has to do with advances in our technology, as well as the relatively cheaper ways to access the internet. I'm not saying that the internet subscription rates are cheap. It's just that the devices that we're having right now, if you cannot afford the high-end iPhones or Samsung, for example, there are still the made-in-China versions that would enable ordinary people to have cheaper access to the internet.
But also the promos that the telecoms are giving out, even if you have a simple device that can just go online, you'll have sometimes free access to some of the sites.
Yes, that's true.
Share your views and read everybody's views.
Yeah, that's true. So there's the free data option, for example, for the most popular social media, which is a social networking site, which is Facebook. So actually, on the part of Contra Dai, which I represent right now, we have a continuing report regarding the elections, and the social media account on Twitter and Facebook are very much useful for our report. Aside from the usual text messaging, short messaging systems, and the hotlines that we're having right now. So these are clear indicators that there's relative progress insofar as technology is concerned, but the problem is not much the issue of information, but also the misinformation that would result from people having access to the internet.
With increased penetration, a lot of people using it, we get more information, that there are also there's also that repercussion that a lot more people are going to abuse it.
Yes, that's true. So right now we're seeing a lot of misinformation, and people are sometimes misled to believe certain things. So that's why there's a need for a high degree of media literacy, not just among journalists and media workers, but also among ordinary people. Sometimes people joke that Filipinos don't know satire when they see one.
Right, hold that thought.
Okay.
About social media, you have a question, I think.
Yeah, so we were talking about, before we got our reporters on air, social media was used to inform and also destroy in the whole campaign season. What to you was the most damaging part of how the social media platforms were used in campaign season 2016?
Well, during the campaign season, we've seen instances where there's a lot of misinformation, particularly on, for example, the bank accounts of a certain presidential candidate. So people accepted hook, line, and sinker certain claims, even if we know that there is a bank secrecy law. Of course, there's also a lot of misinformation, particularly memes that would pretend to endorse certain candidates, and that's why even the Prime Minister of Singapore was forced to issue a statement stating that, hey, I haven't done this. So, I'm sorry?
A whole country, a world leader to have to come out and
with an official statement to deny something. Yeah.
Well, right now we're now seeing that memes are getting popular along with GIFs. So this seem to be new, relatively new, insofar as form is concerned. But the advice to people would be not just to believe. Just because there's a picture and a statement there attributed to a certain personality, it's true. So sometimes even endorsements would be part of misinformation, when in fact we should be in the business of truth-telling. It would appear that the operators, particularly the army of trolls, that are hired, and when I say hired, I mean that they are actually being paid by these operators. So they seem to be working double time insofar as this election campaign is concerned, to either misinform people toward ensuring that they would win votes no matter what happens.
But that makes the job of a journalist harder.
Yes.
Aside from giving of course, what you try to be as accurate as possible and as balanced as possible, you also have to extend that role in putting out the fires, trying to kill misinformation by asking people not to believe this and believe this.
Yes, that's true. Because sometimes the public, even if it's reported by credible news media organizations, they would still ignore what this dominant media would say because they would easily believe something that would inflame, the emotions. I think this is something unacceptable. Part of media education would be not to just depend on one particular source of information. For example, if you have a news media organization claiming this and another news media organization claiming another, then it seems that there's something wrong. Either both are incorrect or one of them is correct. So people should learn to realize that and not just to accept hook, line, and sinker everything that they see online. I think in the context of today's elections, the main lesson for people would be to be really directly involved in getting the information that they want by asking the candidates themselves, for example. They're now relatively more accessible. If not the candidates themselves, perhaps their representatives. Their email addresses, for example, are available in their official websites. As a citizen, I think it is your right to ask these questions. Don't just depend on journalists doing the job for you. If you're not satisfied with it, then let's maximize social media or the new media, for that matter, which includes the internet in general, so that we can get the information that we need.
Well, one thing for sure, campaign season 2016